And the finding is that we have sort of found out that guidance seems to be a cross-cutting theme of different policy areas within these documents. And that's why the role and also the locus of guidance must be recognized and examined from more than one perspective. And we have found out that well-functioning national guidance systems, they improve education and labor market efficiency and effectiveness. We could say that it has links to preventing dropouts or preventing early school leaving, but it also contributes to the productivity. We can address skill shortages and also emerging competence areas. So that's why guidance is not only contributing education, it contributes to the labor market policies, but also social policies if we think of the promotion of active citizenship within the European Union member states. And that's why guidance is like an integrative element of these different areas. And that's why we need a common language or common definition of what we mean when we talk about guidance. And 2004, during the Irish presidency, the Council of Ministers adopted the first European-level document on guidance, and it sort of summarized some of the challenges what Europe was facing at that time. And before the ELGPN, the Commission had established an expert group of lifelong guidance, which consisted different interest group, stakeholders and social partners and different government sectors. And it sort of drew up some of the findings which we could found in the evaluation that took place together with OECD at that time. And then one task for the expert group was to create a common definition of guidance, because we were aware that different government sectors were aiming towards this common goal through their own sort of services. We had in education, we had guidance. In public employment services, we had vocational guidance and placement. And in social work, people were supporting these, they were promoting the active citizenship. But the problem was that many countries were working in silos. And that's why one way to get this common definition was to start which activities contribute to the common goal. And they can be listed like information giving, advice, guidance, counseling, assessment, teaching, and advocacy. They all aim to support the individual citizens, and they should be targeted to all citizens, not only those who have problems, but also as a mainstream service, a proactive service which would support the development of these skills and the way how the citizens could use the learning opportunities which were available and which were provided to them. And this means that guidance should be provided at any age and any points of their lives, starting from education, in transition from education to further education or to labor market, but also when you are coming from labor market back to continuing education. So in a way, the focus of these services would be making meaningful choices of learning and work, and also to empower my own learning and a career. And then a career is not anymore focused on work. Career can be described as an individual life path in learning and work, and in other settings where I can use these capacities and competencies. In education, training, employment, community, but also in some countries in private settings. And this means that this individual career management skills becomes one element of lifelong learning. And it means that if there are needs, because of the change in the labor market, I need to sort of update my existing skills and competencies. I would be able to identify learning goals for myself and where to look for these learning opportunities, either in education or in work-based learning. And this means that this type of definition puts together these different service providers towards a common goal. It provides like a common conceptual framework which we can use and describe or discuss with the different service providers how we contribute to this jointly agreed common goal. And this is the basis for the work of the network at the moment, and we agreed that this would provide us the opportunity to examine how the different member states are implementing these services. And if I then go to the current strategies, the European 2020 invites the member states towards smart growth, sustainable growth, and inclusive growth. And these main strategies are then implemented through different measures and initiatives. For example, Education 20 and 20, Europe 2020 integrated guidelines, and 7 flagship initiatives which have more detailed descriptions and invitations for the countries. And the role of the European Union within education and employment and social strategies is to support the national development. And in education, or within these services, we build the national structures according to the national own priorities as well. And I pick up some elements of these, or highlight some key issues in these strategies. In education and training, there were 4 main pillars. First, making lifelong learning and mobility a reality within the member countries, improving quality and efficiency of education and training, excuse me, and promoting equity and social cohesion and active citizenship, and enhance creativity and innovation, including entrepreneurship at all levels of education and training. And if we look at all these priorities, all of them imply the active role of citizen, as I mentioned, and the skills to utilize these opportunities. And guidance is referred in this document most explicitly in the mobility, which we have already some organizations like Euroguidance which are supporting the mobility among the member states. Secondly, there's a flagship initiative called Youth on the Move. And if I pick some of the priorities in this document, there is statements how to promote individual career management skills, how to promote mobility, how to recognize non-formal and informal learning. And this is a sort of new challenge, how to identify the existing competencies which we have obtained in labor market, and also how they could be integrated into the future individual learning plans. Thank you. And then the 4th one is very important. If I was looking at the previous presentation, there were I sort of interpreted them like an attempt to attend to labor market through different sort of different tasting. So one of the document is mentioning that we should move from testing to tasting to give young people opportunities to try different fields, whether it in order to find this is my field, or they could be used also that I can exclude something personal goals to sharpen the individual goals. So in a way, we are not making only one individual big choice, but there will be a sort of continuum of choices and decisions during the life path. And Tony Watts will talk about this in his presentation in more details. Then the DG Education and Culture and DG Employment, Social Affairs and Equal Opportunities, they have both agreed on this flagship initiative, which is called New Skill for New Jobs. And this initiative as such is an example that guidance is an interest of different policy areas, as it's sort of prepared by these two Commission DGs. And the goal of this initiative is to create conditions for modernizing labor markets with a view of raising employment levels and ensuring sustainability of social models, in a way how to modernize the labor market. And this flagship initiative has four areas of focus: better functioning labor markets and flexicurity. I come to that in the next slide. Right skills for right jobs, quality and work and working conditions, but also creating jobs. Guidance as such doesn't create jobs, so we shouldn't use guidance as like blaming the individuals that although you have training and you have career management skills and you don't get a job, it's not this fault of the individual citizens, it's part of the society and the current labor market. But if we are improving the sort of competencies and self-confidence of the young people, then we are helping them how to sort of use and improve their employability skills in order to get security in the labor market. And all these invitations or the proposals under this new skills for new jobs, they refer directly to the development of consistent lifelong guidance services within the country. And they also imply the development of career management skills and access to different sort of multi-channels or differentiated guidance services. And this requires then coordination, cooperation between the government sectors on a national level, and if services are designed on a regional level, it requires also cooperation among the providers within the regional settings. Something briefly about the flexicurity. In 2007, European Union launched so-called flexicurity agenda, and the title was Towards Common Principles of Flexicurity, More and Better Jobs Through Flexibility and Security. And it means from individual perspective that in order to have security in the labor market, I have to be flexible, I have to be able to learn new competencies and upgrade and update my existing competencies. From the contractual perspective, it means that we should have more flexible contracts to allow young people better opportunities to enter to the labor market. But on the other hand, there have been discussions that we have to be aware that these same flexible contractual arrangements are not used in such way to get rid of young people from the labor market. So in a way, there's sort of a very careful balance how we use these different opportunities. But the third component is that we should also facilitate these transitions and learning opportunities through different funding mechanisms. How can we use the different sectors' funding opportunities to give opportunity for young people and also adults to use the learning opportunities when they are upgrading their skills from lifelong learning perspectives. So flexicurity has many different sort of approaches how we can look at the same agenda. In September, 20th of September, under the Polish presidency, the Commission also launched the communication to modernize the higher education systems in Europe. And there were three pillars in this document: how to increase attainment levels to provide the graduates, and researchers which Europe needs. And this document invites the higher education systems to structure and establish clear progression routes, more transparent information on opportunities in higher education, and also tailored individual guidance to inform about study choices and reduce dropouts. And also to improve the quality and relevance of higher education, encourage the use of skills and growth projections and graduate employment data, encourage create a variety of study modes, but also to develop labor market policies to promote the academic employment and enhance also guidance services within higher education. And again, mobility was strongly emphasized. And also, just before going to the current resolution from 2008, similar findings were also in vocational education and training. In the impetus of VET from last year, there was a strong emphasis on individual learning paths for young people. And in order to reach this, it requires consistent and accessible guidance services across the sectors. Being aware that many of these documents highlight the importance of guidance under their own sectoral policies, we need this type of sort of consistent and coherent documents on guidance. I mentioned that 2004 the Ministers of Education adopted the first resolution under the Irish presidency. So then this was followed up by the French presidency 2004. We found out that many countries were sort of implementing the priorities, but they could be done more explicitly and in more details. And that's why the French resolution invited the countries to integrate lifelong guidance more explicitly in their lifelong learning strategies. And it stressed the 4 priorities. First one was to encourage the lifelong acquisition of career management skills. How to integrate that in education, already in comprehensive education, secondary level education, higher education, adult education, but also within public employment services. So in a way, how to build a consistent individual competence from this perspective. I come to the definition in the next slide. Second priority was how to facilitate access to different services in different settings, face-to-face services, and then multi-channeling using telephone, internet, social media, group settings, and also workplace outreach services. And how to have this like in a way consistent and all-age service among the countries. Third one, how to develop evidence and quality assurance for the services. What evidence we have to sort of document in order to prove it works, that we are reaching these outcomes and we get return of investment in a cost-effective manner when many countries are struggling with the public sector budgets. And in order to sort of enhance this overall strategy development, the countries were invited to establish structures for national coordination and cooperation among various national, regional and local stakeholders. And how to use the opportunities which are available under the Commission learning programs and also under the European social funds and structural funds, but in accordance to the member states' own priorities. And then if I come to the career management skills, the ELGPN has been collecting information and data and practices from different countries, how they implement these or how they develop the career management skills in different settings. Tony Watts will describe in his presentation about different ways of doing it and different models of doing it. But we have found out that these sort of goals are filtered through national cultures, national educational tradition, but also according to these economic and social and political situations. But we are trying to look for like a common framework which the countries could use to describe how they are reaching these goals. And we have defined that these career management skills as a competence refer to many range of competencies which provide structured ways for the citizens and groups to gather, analyze, synthesize, and organize information that relates oneself personally, and then also to the existing educational opportunities and labor market opportunities. So in a way, the information, the content that I need to make well-informed and well-thought-through decisions, and then how to develop to skills to make these decisions, and also plans to implement the decisions. So in other words, how to make active transitions from education to labor market and from labor market back to continuing education. Or how, as I mentioned previously, how to identify learning goals for myself to upgrade my competencies which are needed in the labor market. So in a way, this is a skill that we need in the current knowledge-based society in different settings. And at the moment, we are collecting more detailed data that we will be discussing next week in Toulouse among those countries which are examining the development of these career management skills in more details. And then to summarize briefly about the European cooperation on the field. As I mentioned, the European Lifelong Guidance Policy Networks aims to support countries in developing their own national policies through structured European cooperation. It was established in 2007 as a member state-driven initiatives. We found out 2006 under the Finnish presidency in November. We were following how these priorities were from the 2004 were implemented in the different countries. We found out that much had been done, but it could be improved if the countries would have this more structured mechanism for cooperation. And during the conference, members agreed that they would establish this network, and then the Commission was at that conference and they informed that they would be willing to support this initiative under the lifelong learning program. And at that time, the task was then to look and establish this mechanism with step-by-step approach. And at this point, we are working on a third period of the ELGPN. The first one was to establish an infrastructure to look or examine who are the key persons in each country who are in charge of guidance development in their countries. The second period was to identify in more details the goals that we would be working, and at the moment we are now in the phase that we are developing tools which the countries can use. And in a way we are our goal is that ELGPN is a conclusion to meet the challenges that the policymakers and European citizens meet in implementing the EU 2020 strategies and the tools which are supporting the strategy, like the EQF, Europass, EQUET, ECTS, and so on. And as I mentioned, we are supported under the lifelong learning program, and the member state provide the national contribution of 25% of our total budget. How the network works. We have, from each country, national teams, and we have invited teams who represent lifelong learning perspective and represent education and training and employment, both from lifelong learning perspective. In other words, representative from all these ministries and the persons who are in charge of guidance development in their country. And a third representative is a non-governmental representative. It could be a national forum, or in some countries it's Euroguidance, in some countries we have links with social partners, and in the case of Finland, which I'm representing, we have the Finnish Institute for Educational Research, who is having the research approach to the policy development. And from each country we have this type of teams, and we have over 100 representatives in the network at the moment. And our working methods are that these countries, we have now 29 members, 2 observers. Bulgaria was a member on the first phase. Now Bulgaria is at the moment having an observer status. It means that you have the opportunity to participate in all the activities, so we are not excluding anybody, but you are not using the Commission grant to do this, so that is the only difference at the moment. But I strongly welcome that the next opportunity again to join the network is next year when we are making the next contract with the Commission. So I think I strongly welcome that Bulgaria will also discuss who would be the national representatives in your case. But our working methods are that within plenary meetings we agree, we meet twice a year, we agree on the themes we work, and we agree on some sort of principles and working methodology in more details. But the actual work is conducted in thematic activities or work packages, and we have each of the work packages has like consistent working structure. We have organized peer learning activities, which has case studies and field visits. So we have a sort of data collection before the meeting on the topic, and then we discuss and reflect how does this relate to the national context, and what can be then sort of teased out as sort of examples or sort of reflections for the European policy development. We have also thematic studies or conceptual papers. The most recent one is a document by Ronald Sultana on a flexicurity. And we are organizing every after 2-year European lifelong guidance policy conferences. The first one, as I mentioned, was in Jyväskylä, then 2008 in Lyon, and then in Spain, and the next one will be in next year in October in Cyprus. And then our work is also supported by contracted consultants. Tony Watts is here, one of them, and their task is to sort of look beyond on the work and try to find, as I find that, synthesize some of the discussions in a sort of a consistent format. And we cooperate with other structures. We organize national events like this, or in conjunction with the field visits, we try to invite countries to organize opportunities where they can discuss about their policies and practices, showcase something, but also share experiences. We work together with CEDEFOP and ETF. Helmut Sellert is representing ETF in our meetings. The Euroguidance Network has a representative in our meetings. Then heads of PES network, and also professional networks like IAVG, Fedora, and globally NCDA. And also the International Center for Career Development and Public Policies, which is following up the OECD evaluation outcomes and organizing a policy conference in Budapest in December, is one of our partners. And currently, as I mentioned, what we are working at the moment, we try to deepen attention in different countries on the 4 themes, which I mentioned in the previous slides, and how to link this lifelong guidance perspective to the sectoral policy development in each country. How guidance contributes to schools, vet, higher education, adult education, both at, and social inclusion at national and European Union levels. And then our goal is to update the previous common reference tools from 2004 into a new type of policy toolkit for countries, which includes some key strategic questions and reference points which should be examined on a national level. And one part of the tool is sort of a jointly created glossary on the policy-related terms. What do we mean by guidance? And this slide sort of briefly highlights the sort of challenges and complexity of our work. As I mentioned, in many countries we have these different sectoral areas: education, vet, higher education, adult education, employment and social inclusion in different sectors. but we are trying to look how guidance is a cross-cutting theme, how it contributes to these different areas, and sort of describe that in a sort of one entity, but allowing the diversity. So in a way, we maintain the diversity, but we look for these synergies between these different sectors. And the outputs, and what we are looking for, as I mentioned, we provide reflection notes from these themes or findings, some policy briefings which countries can use, some sort of proposals and inspirations for national development, but also activity report with a database of good practices in policy development. And as I mentioned, the goal is a toolkit which, for national use. And what we have found out that the countries have been using the sort of opportunities and experiences of the ELGPNs in many ways. A concrete outcome is that all of our members have established or are in the process of establishing a national forum. The two latest ones are from Ireland, it's about 3 weeks ago, and then in Sweden 2 months ago, where the countries launched a national forum. And a similar sort of strategy development is taking place in this area as well. I had the opportunity to visit Montenegro in May, where both ministries launched a national lifelong guidance strategy in a meeting where both of the ministers were attending, and that is an example of the current progress that is taking place. So the countries have found out that the ELGPN provides opportunities to share ideas on common problems, and also how to showcase good practice for mutual policy learning, and also look for opportunities for cost-effective approach where this may involve in the development. And to conclude, it seems that in Europe there is a very strong political consensus that guidance and counseling or lifelong guidance are seen as key strategic components for implementing lifelong learning and employment strategies at regional and national levels. This process can be enhanced if local authorities and governments invest on the systems which are consistent and coherent for this purpose. And this requires close cooperation and sort of agreement on common conceptual frameworks between different ministries who are in charge of these guidance policies. But it also needs an evidence base and research linked to prove that it works. And finally, there's also a new type of leadership in networks, not only within the organizations, in the design and implementation of the networked services. And this can be done if the countries jointly agree on a common conceptual framework for lifelong guidance, and also a congruence between policies on a national level, and then how we organize the services and on the actual service delivery. And the career management skills and careers education is one of the very strong elements, key elements in making this implemented in a consistent way from a lifelong learning perspective. And I want to thank you for your attention and the opportunities to highlight, and the next speakers will talk about these in more details. Thank you.